initiated.
And Jason, you're filling in?
I am just filling in for Steve Sopolak tonight. So
Oh.
he's considered a member, but I'm not
Yeah.
an alternate officially.
What's your last name?
Jason Scott, SCOTT.
Yeah, it's the committee and then the town members,
That's
I
okay,
guess,
thank
are
you.
technically, right? Or the-
Yeah, we're good to go.
It's different on every committee.
As I am finding out.
It is, yeah. Yeah. Welcome aboard to your 5 new committees, and some you're a part of, some you're not.
Why keep it the same?
But you have to go to all of them.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Plan Implementation Committee for April 5th, 2023 meeting. The first thing I'd like to do is come to my attention that we have some minutes that are not on the agenda that I would like to amend the agenda to approve those minutes. So there's several sets of minutes, so I kind of want to do it in 2 sets. Staff has said that he had some minutes on his desk from March 16th, 2022, October 6th, 2022, and December 7th of 2022 that I'd like to put on the agenda for approval, as well as the ones that were in our packet from February 1st, 2023, I'm sorry. So I'd like to make two things on the agenda so we can approve them in different points since they weren't on the agenda. So I'd like to have a motion to amend the agenda for those 2 items.
Sure, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll do that after public comment, seeing no one in the public is here. Motion to approve the working minutes of March 16th, 2022, October 6th, 2022, and December 7th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve all those minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 1st, 2023.
So moved, I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're on agenda item 3, affordable housing, an update. Affordable Housing Committee with the ordinance and application process for membership. Not seeing them at the meeting, unless anybody has a comment.
I don't know anything about that, but it intrigued me because I am on the Sustainable CT Task Force, and I'm trying to move the affordable housing issue forward. And I know first thing we have to do is create a affordable housing committee. And I believe in the plan it says the town council and the town manager are tasked with that. So evidently they have decided that there's going to be an application process for membership to that committee. That's what I'm surmising here. Do you know anything more about that?
That's interesting, because I do not know.
Who said that, the town council?
Well, it says it here, and so I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm inferring, and I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I don't
All right.
want to, assume that that's the case. But
Well, that's interesting. I have a lot to do with affordable housing, obviously due to my department in town with dealing with socioeconomic status of people and applications, and I've heard nothing about the application. So I would surmise the same based on what that says, but I think we can get an update.
So how about we do this? If we want to buy some time in case someone shows up to talk about it, we'll table this until the end and we'll come back to it. And
Yeah.
if someone shows up to actually have some working knowledge of it, we'll talk about it again.
Yep.
sure, sounds good.
So going on to agenda item 4, complete streets policy.
I know we passed, this body
Yeah.
passed the complete streets policy, and it's at the town council, or it needs to go to the town council. So the question would be, how does it get to the town council for their approval?
I have heard that nothing recent has come into our office that anything has happened in that vein. So I know of no movement in that area. So we asked that question probably 2 weeks ago, and as far as I know, nothing's changed. So I don't know what the status is.
Okay, so if that's the case, then can we put it on, is it fair to say that we have to bring it to the next meeting? Or is there a report by staff as a follow-up in the next planning and zoning meeting that we could get an update on it? I don't know every planning and zoning meeting we have a PIC update. And I'm just wondering if we can get a complete streets update as part of our next planning and zoning meeting, as either other business. Usually staff has a report at the end, and can we make that just as an update?
Yes.
Whether it's, you know, the same as what you just said, or any movement on it.
Yes.
If we can make that part of the next planning and zoning meeting, so at least we can get some movement on it, so we can have some working knowledge of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll keep on going, but I actually wanted to talk about, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with complete streets, sidewalks, and bikeways is, and just broach the subject to throw it in possibly for the next meeting, is road diet. And if that means, if that's part of the complete streets concept, or is that something else? And I bring it to you guys to, it's been over several applications and to the Planning and Zoning Commission at least, as well as just streetscapes and complete streets and everything else. Does it make sense to talk about a Silas Dean road diet? Whether it's a median, whether it's bike lanes, however we design the street for a road diet to slow it all down and make it more complete street. I mean, if that's, so I wanted to throw that out to you to basically say, can we put it on the next agenda? Because no one's really prepared about it right now. But I'd like to throw it out to the committee, but I'd like to make it part of the conversation when we talk about complete streets.
I think that'd be great if it got back to Steve, and then Steve could prepare for next
Yes.
month and maybe come with some ideas. If you're thinking specifically for Silas Dean, I would certainly support that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the only.
He would come back with some ideas.
That was to be the only practical space in town right now, because we're concentrating on the development of, you know, the whole Divon thing that's happening, and the what's going on there, the whole Kelston area,
Right.
you know, and everything else, and plus they invested so much in the sidewalks and the streetscape and everything else. Does it make sense to talk about road diet? And if we say, don't, you know, hey, let's put it on the back burner because we have so much else going on, then we can. But I'd like to make that part of the complete street conversation.
I think DOT has looked into the possibility of a road diet on a portion of Silas Dean.
Okay.
Not going as far as the Dividend Road project that could potentially be happening, but there is a concept.
Okay.
And I can have Steve talk about it more next time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He did bring that up to me. And then, you know, of course, that state highway, so things like restriping and a road diet, those usually occur after a paving project, because the existing lines that are on there now would have to be ground off. And so in order to do that, you have to physically damage the surface of the existing pavement, leaving a slight depression, which for an automobile, you may not notice it so much, but if you're trying to add something like a bike lane or something, it could be harder to traverse for a bicycle tire.
Okay.
So I think typically DOT, when they do things like that, it's only after some sort of a resurfacing project that they would then, when they stripe, have a new striping plan to take
Okay.
advantage of the existing road width. And I think that might be something that they looked at as a concept for, like I said, for a portion of the road, but what I don't know is if there's any definitive plans in the near future for repaving. So it might be something that they'd like to do, but there may not be necessarily a concrete plan to do it then.
Yeah,
Concrete.
it's good to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we're talking about a lot of
So
other
for the,
things, so.
for the next agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
And if he has, I would also add, if Steve has any other ideas for any other sections of town, you know, I mean, Route 3 is certainly a high-speed area, and I don't know if, well, I imagine he could, if he wanted to, connect with the police department. I know I've had conversations with a few police officers about slowing traffic down.
Mhm. That's certainly.
I was thinking of South Dean Main Street just because of what's going on down there, but
Correct.
Absolutely open it up. Why not? See what
Bring it
happens.
all the way to the river, you know, talk about Glastonbury Avenue, people speeding up there too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, Glastonbury Avenue is very narrow.
It's a whole different animal.
It's another,
Yeah,
it's
road
another
diet
state
there
road.
wouldn't work. It is a state road, that is true.
Right.
Yes. But I know it doesn't currently have the width to remove a lane. There's only 2 lanes there, otherwise it would have to go down to single directional travel, which I don't think the town really would want at this point. Maybe they would, but Since you brought up Glastonbury Ave, I don't know if it's worth talking about this or
Well,
not.
we're gonna go into that next. So the
Okay.
next thing on the agenda is, we're talking sidewalks, number 5. And the first thing is status updates on Glastonbury Avenue, Elm Street, Century Hills Drive.
Okay. I'm going to start with Elm Street, if that's all right. Elm Street, I think you guys are already aware that we've prepared a set of plans for filling in a gap in the sidewalk on Elm Street across from the cemetery. And DOT has a copy of my initial design, and they're reviewing it, and they're going to send comments back. I sent those in before I went out on leave a few weeks ago, so I anticipate probably seeing something in the next 2 weeks. If I don't hear anything by the middle of next week, I'm probably going to
All right,
reach
cool.
out. But before that project can be approved, there's additional coordination with CT Transit as well as the archaeological group in the state to make sure that there isn't any issues there. So they need to review those as well. If there's any design changes that I have to make as a result of that, that can slow down the process. But that's something we'd like to bid this year.
The archaeological?
Yeah, that's typical
Is there just a typical survey?
Yeah, typical survey, yep. So that still has to be performed, so we have to get on that.
So just on that note, if there is an archaeological survey, the Historical Society has been organizing all of our archaeological documents, and we have quite a few.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's something could be shared. So
Good question.
I don't know if your department keeps a set, archaeological folder or something, but that's one of the things. We have an archaeologist right now volunteering with us, so we raised our game quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I just say, put that out if there's something that, you feel that you can share. Not that we're gonna put it out to the public,
Yeah.
just for, research.
Sure. I mean, I think a report's generated, that would be submitted to us after it's complete, and there may be some very interesting information as part of that. And then in terms of, if there's digs performed on site, they may be welcome to having a visitor come and observe and offer support. I don't know. I'd have to reach out and find out. I'd be happy to do that.
The person who's probably gonna be doing it is the person who's volunteering for us, because he works for the DOT.
Yeah, no
So,
kidding.
right, it's probably gonna go through the DOT?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
he's the DOT state archaeologist.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Lucky us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Glastonbury Avenue. We have a consultant that's prepared a draft plan. I think you guys have seen that in the past. We're going to be having a meeting with DOT about that design, as well as the Dividend Road closure project that we were talking about for expanding the park. That meeting is tomorrow afternoon, so that's maybe some movement since your last meeting. So we'll talk to them and see if we can get some support, and there may be some redesign or further changes from what our current proposals are based on what they say, but it's good that it's happening.
Victor, have you seen a plan for the Glastonbury Avenue sidewalks, or?
I thought he showed it to us last time.
I think it's
Steve?
like a rough concept.
Rough concept of going down one side and then leveraging
okay.
the other side.
Okay.
We have an application before us at Planning and Zoning. We can't talk about it, but it's on Glastonbury Avenue,
Right.
Belden and Glastonbury. And so I think there's gonna be more talk about it with that project also. But I think Steve showed us the last meeting conceptually going down the north side and making a traverse to the south side. I can't remember if he made the traverse at Belden or if he made farther down at Washington. I can't remember where he made it.
Washington.
It's Washington.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because then the Foundry has
Correct.
Yeah.
sidewalks all the way down supposedly.
Yep. That's what that's what's on that the plan that exists at the moment, I think, was to do that. But that plan could change based on any site work that's done in
Yeah.
terms of investigation.
well, the most important part of that, there's conversations actually happening.
That
So
is, that's correct,
let's just,
yes.
we'll keep that momentum is beautiful.
Correct.
When it comes to that. And Century Hills Drive,
Yeah, Century Hills Drive, we wanted to do a two-phase sidewalk construction project there. The first phase is funded through a grant that we already have, which is great. We received that at the end of 2022. And we have a draft design into the state under their LOTSIP program for funding. And we're waiting to hear back on that. So they've only had that a few weeks now. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to review. I think there's 4 communities that have sidewalk projects that would be competing against, but I think these standalone sidewalk projects are usually something that they're interested in doing. So we have hope that LOTSIP will support both the Glastonbury Avenue project, sidewalk project, as well as the second half of Century Hills. But we'll have to wait and see. So
Okay.
fingers crossed. They're both good projects.
Great. On the same theme of the complete street policy going before town council, the sidewalk related ordinance, I believe we're at that point where that has to be sent up for approval. I believe the last meeting we had, we talked about all the modifications and the couple word changes, and then now it just has to be sent up the food chain, really, to make it happen. So I'm assuming there's no update on that?
I don't have one for you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So perhaps the next meeting, we could address that and sort of do the same thing we're trying to do with complete streets.
We'll make it part of the staff report in planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of relates, even though this committee is recommending it, technically it's in concert with planning and zoning, so that's good. And then you already talked about the funding, but we had a conversation last time that the sidewalk related ordinance is basically a vehicle to get money into a sidewalk related fund. And it was part of the budget process that there was supposed to be some investigation on if the fund actually exists, if it's a line item, and I'm assuming is there any headway on that? Do you know of any headway on that?
I don't know of any. I know that there was some draft budget proposals last night at the town
Okay.
council meeting. What I don't know is if any of those proposals have that line item. I honestly not sure yet, so
Okay.
I'd have to research that.
Yes, B and C are kind of related with each other.
Right.
Because without one, you can't have the other and vice versa, but, so that's what's going on there, I guess. We'll have a follow-up with that. Okay, so sidewalks, anything else on sidewalks before we go on to bikeways? All right, so we'll go to bikeways. Talked a lot about markings and signs and everything else, and Steve was supposed to get us some general costs of what that would be. And we also talked about, I know that he gave us a plan last time, and we have a plan in our packet.
Right.
Does anybody have any comment about this?
Well, I do want to say that Derek we've had a few sustainable Rocky Hill meetings, the task force, and Derek has taken this map and has blown it up and has engaged the public in regards to revising it, adding to it, suggestions and things of that nature. So that's moving forward. I know he did it at the task force, and he also did it at I think he did it at a teen meeting too. I'm not quite sure which one it was. I guess from my perspective, I know that Paul and Louis and myself, we created that bike map, that bike route. So I guess what I'm looking to see is how is this and that bike route that we made eventually gonna, because he's got right now he's got things that are not suitable. And if we're looking at, and that's actually what we did in the beginning, we started to put down roads that were suitable and were not. Then eventually we said, well, we just want to put down the suitable roads. Where do we want people to, if we're going to put a sign, the safest routes? So I guess that's what I'm looking to see how the map that we made is going to, conflate with this one to create the map that we finally say, let's implement this, right? That's what we're looking for, right?
Well, one of the easiest bike facilities to implement is in the southwest quadrant of the Century Hills Drive neighborhood. So we paved Century Hills Drive end of last summer, and we did a center line stripe in the road, the double yellow center line and the stop bars, but we left the edge lines out, with the anticipation that we might be able to add a bike lane.
Oh, nice.
But at the end of the year, we didn't have time to go that far and actually put it down on the ground. But there should be width on that existing pavement now for that. And it would not be an expensive thing to add, just because of the fact paving's new, and it would be just paint that has to go down on the ground and perhaps a few signs. So that would probably be the easiest one to do. As for some of these other areas, being a relatively new employee to town, I'm not as familiar with every street as my boss, Steve Sopolak. So I know he tried to prioritize these a little bit. I would imagine, he would want to try to focus on the areas that are listed in blue, these local roads first. Those are roads that we have jurisdiction on, and they tend to be less traffic than the other color roads that you see. These minor and major collectors just have more traffic traveling on them. So bike lanes on these other roads are safer alternatives because of the less traffic. But of course, there's space limitations, so we'd have to take a look and see if there's enough width on the existing pavements, and if not, it gets more expensive to try to fit something in, because there would have to be road widening to make room for the bike lanes. So going any further than this map, I don't have information.
Sorry.
Right, so that map, I don't know if you have the map that we made through Walk Bike Rocky Hill.
I haven't seen it. I know it's in the office, but I
Yeah,
haven't
and
seen
I could send it to you, and I know, going through the process of sharing this with the public, it's a good thing. You want the public to know about it, but also we also want people who ride their bikes a real lot, and I'm not one of them, but I can make a map. And so, the idea was I got Paul and Lewis together, and they ride thousands of miles a year, and so I think we have a good map already. So part of me, I don't want to spend a lot of time sort of, working on something that already exists. I feel we have a really
Sure.
good thing that already exists. So how could we take that map and consolidate it with this thing somehow?
Yeah, there might be a way, I don't want to speak for my boss, but there might be a way to take a look at that map, take a look at this, and start prioritizing, what things would be easy solutions, things that might be more difficult to do, and then things that are, not feasible. But it sounds like your map, you skip the things that are not feasible and try to stick to things that you believe that are.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it might just come down to prioritizing that and maybe trying to come up with some associated costs, because depending on what road you're on, treatments could be slightly different, and the cost of implementation could change drastically. So,
Ed, you said that Steve already has that map.
Steve does, yeah.
So would it be fair to say that if he could prepare a map with yours as a layer or as an overlay, so we can see yours versus what he's done, create a different color or whatever it is, and then we can say, let's not do the red now. Let's do the
Correct.
green. Let's do the blue.
Correct.
So let's overlay it on having all one map. Is that fair to say?
That would be fantastic,
Is
in
it-
my opinion. Yeah.
So going forward,
Yeah.
for the next meeting, have staff prepare a map with both maps integrated, and let's see where it goes. So we'll put that on the next agenda.
Beautiful, yeah.
Because it seems like there was, two people are working on the same exact thing. Let's get them together and let's mold ideas. Anything else on bikeways?
I know Parks and Rec had got a bike repair station, and so just as an update, they're hoping to put it in Ferry Park sometime in the spring.
Yes, I talked with Craig Bowman about that in the fall. It was too late in the season to have the concrete contractor that we use for sidewalk construction in town to be able to do that work, but that was something we wanted to do this year, so that's a priority, absolutely.
Okay, so onward to number 7, sustainable CT. Ed, would you happen to give a update, or would you
Well,
have
we-
any working knowledge of what's going on?
Yeah, we've had our, geez, is it just the second meeting we had? Or is it,
I guess it's 3 now.
is it
Yeah.
third meeting?
Yep.
So, you know, it's a brand-new task force and just sort of getting off the ground. So at our last meeting, Derek held a visioning session, and we had a number of people from the public, probably, I don't know, 10 to 20 people or so. And so there were a lot of ideas in regards to sustainability in town. So at our next meeting, we'll take all that information and consolidate it, and then come up with a plan for the year. That was the goal. And I would say that's about it for me right now. For that.
Okay. I saw this thing that you had in the packet here.
Yes.
With the points and how we're doing with points. So it seems like something's happening. It seems like we're doing something. He explained the points last time to us, Derek, I believe. He brushed it, so this is kind of good information.
So this is the one that I was working on, the affordable, this is affordable housing. So the Sustainable CT has 2 actions in regards to affordable housing, 11.1 and 11.2. I did 11.2 because it was the easiest. 11 point, well, and you could read it, you could see number 1 was, you know, do we have 10% affordable housing? The answer is no, we don't, so we get 0 points. And then number 2 was, what is our baseline for affordable housing? And that was actually very easy to find out. And you just go on the Connecticut Appeals List and you look up the last 5 years, and we've increased 0.27%. So we have increased, and because you increase 0.25%, you get 10 points. So we got 10 points for that. And then there was it's not on this one, it must be on the other one. The actual affordable housing plan that you all passed, right? That gets like 30 or 40, 50 points, something like that.
What, is there a goal for a number of points, or is there like a, low, medium, high goal?
So they have bronze, silver, and then there's a new one, which is called Climate Leader, which is, above and beyond. So I believe bronze was 200 points maybe?
I think so.
Was it 200? And then I think silver might be 400. So we already have bronze. And so our next goal is to get silver. But it's really not to attain a certification.
Yeah.
It's to connect. Jason is on the Sustainable Task Force, so points are beside the point. It's a little redundant, right?
Well, it's also proof of performance. Points are proof of performance, so the more points you
Yeah.
have proves that you're actually guys are doing something with, you know what I mean? So it's,
Right.
And it's
I wouldn't sell it short by getting the points, because
No, correct,
you're
yeah.
doing a good job getting
Yeah.
the points.
it's a roadmap for their visioning too. Derek and Ed and everyone in that group took some time to think about the types of things that residents in town might be interested in the town pursuing. And so as an advisory task force, they were able to take some of that data from the people that came to the meeting, and the number of visitors seems to be growing every meeting, so they're getting the word out there. And they're able to say, what sorts of things are important to you? What does sustainability mean to you? And then how can we start implementing that, with the goals being of getting to that next silver level. So
Okay.
it's given them a framework or somewhere where they can start making recommendations.
And the other thing about that is that at things that we have successfully adopted, like from last year, from the getting bronze, we have to make sure we keep on implementing these things, like pollinator pathways, for instance. We passed a resolution in town that Parks and Rec is not going to use pesticides, and they didn't in the first place, which is a good thing. But that we're going to increase the pollinator pathway. For me, historic resources was something that I did for the bronze, and so Center Cemetery, and thank you for all your work that you did for that. Creating a sustainable plan for Center Cemetery. So I've been working with Ray, and now we're trying to get a new landscape plan for that. and the road, that road there, and just, you know, taking care of all the stones itself, but, so, my point is that all the things that we implemented on the bronze world, you know.
You have to keep it going.
We need to keep it going,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
great, nice work. Number 8, any other business? We have committee membership suggestions. I didn't understand that as part of the agenda.
Could that
but-
be, committee membership for affordable housing?
Meaning adding them to the pick?
Or is it for the pick?
I think it's for the pick.
I think it's for the pick.
Oh,
Like, do we
okay.
need to add more people?
Gotcha.
And I didn't know of any outstanding things other than possibly considering, was there conversation about considering Derek for sustainable CT as part of the pick?
We did not,
I
we
don't
didn't
remember.
talk about that, but I think that's a great idea.
The only thing that I would say is that I would like to table this to next meeting to have more input from
Yeah.
more members.
Right.
I don't want to make I'm personally fine with it, but I'm not, you know.
The
I could-
majority should
Yes,
be here,
exactly.
yeah.
We should have a bigger quote-unquote meeting to talk about that.
And I think if we look at the membership on the minutes here, you can see where maybe we're lacking in regards to town departments, you know? But for next time, yeah, good idea.
So before we adjourn, we talked about going back, and since no one has come differently other than someone from the public, do you have anything to say, Mr. Public?
No,
Okay.
I do have a question.
Okay.
You're talking about bike lanes. What's your required width of a road to put a bike lane in?
The width of the traveled lane for the vehicles can vary depending on the speed that the road's designed for. Wider width gives more room for the vehicle to move and more comfort for the driver. The other thing too is whether there's curbing on the side of the road or not. That can also affect how wide a design of your lane as well as the design of the bike lane width would be. For example, if you have curb on a bike lane where normally 4 feet wide would be something you would typically have on a road without curbing, you add curb, you want to make it 5 feet, because that perception of even a rider on a bicycle, they're going to feel more confined in that space, and they will subconsciously travel away from the curb closer to the direction of travel of the vehicles that are running past them. So they want to add more width. So it varies depending on the location that you want to install the bike lane on.
So the majority of town roads are 50-foot right away to 30-foot.
Sometimes a lot less than that, sometimes 26,
So-
sometimes less.
With those, and then the speed, I mean, you can narrow it down to how many roads you can actually put bike lanes on.
Right, and that's exactly what we were talking about, where there's bicyclists that are very familiar with bicycling on different town roads, and they've come up with some ideas and some routes that they think may work. And then the town engineering department had recently prepared a plan with some areas of town that they thought might be areas that could support bike lanes. Or some other form, whether the bicycle shares that travel lane with the vehicle,
Right.
but there's some additional signage or markings on the pavement to help warn motorists that there's
So if
bikes.
you put bike lanes in, you would have to restrict parking.
Depends on the width. Sometimes if you have a road that's wide enough, you can have some parking, a bike lane in the middle, and then the travel lane.
Including the South Street Highway and Route 3.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all we got.
Most roads are too narrow for bike
So
lanes.
then you would have to you wouldn't be able to park. Like, I mean, I've seen bike lanes in Hartford,
Yeah,
they're actually in the lane where the cars are.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is parking.
right.
Correct.
So I think we would have to lose parking.
So you're saying, look at the ordinance for on-street parking.
Well, they passed an ordinance that you can park all night,
Hmm,
unless then you have to put no parking signs up.
Yeah, but then you're
Well,
not riding a bike at night. Well, some people can.
Well, what's night? 4 o'clock?
Yeah, it's true.
So you don't necessarily have to have a dedicated bike lane. You can have other symbols to warn motorists and share the existing lane without having to come up with a dedicated striped thing. So it may not necessarily affect traffic if all you're doing is adding a couple markings on the ground or a couple of signs. It may not affect parking at all. But there's always exceptions depending on the situation. Was there a part of town, like a road specifically
Well,
you're
man,
worried about, or?
I ride a bike, so
Sure.
I look at it as the bike lane doesn't help me
Mm.
because I'm gonna drive with the traffic.
Yep.
So when you sit there and say you're putting in a bike lane, I'm picturing a family taking their kids out on a bike ride.
Right.
That to me then becomes, where's the hazard? Because you can't have cars blocking a sight line if they're parking. So you don't wanna move the bike lane into the middle.
I think that one of the goals of having bike lanes is to get to places that people want to go to.
Right.
For instance, like a park.
Right, so like
So
Glastonbury Ave,
maybe
Right.
one section, there might be only a section of that painted area, next to the park, or a school maybe, right?
I agree. But like you referenced Glastonbury Ave, and you said it's not wide enough. It's a 50-foot right of way, you just don't have from curb to curb, it's just shy of 30 feet.
Right.
But if you make that one lane going down, then you can put a bike lane in.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that would be ideal for the
That
town,
was-
because you want that. You want that pedestrian and bike lane going up Glastonbury Ave. But I
Well,
think the only way you're gonna get that is if you make that one way.
Yeah, and I know of no plan to do that.
Well, it's a
I've only
state
been with
road.
the town for about a year,
It's a
but yeah,
state
it's,
road, and then that's a whole nother
right.
issue.
And you got the agricultural trucks that are coming in and out of that, so,
Oh, I know.
that's a big issue.
Yeah. And the striping would ultimately be the DOT's responsibility, so they would certainly have a say with,
But there's a new sign, share the road on Old Main Street, 2 of them, right? So there was no striping there, just, to motorists share the road. I don't know if it does much, but makes, people wanted it. Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
At the Historical Society where, this town center here is a triangle, and it used to be called the Old Triangle. So what we're asking, and we're trying to push and almost market for the town is calling it now the Old Town Center. So I wrote to Ray and Lisa, our mayor, and suggested that to them. And it could become a marketing thing, I hear one of the reasons why I'm pushing it is because I hear some people saying that we don't have a downtown. And in my opinion, we do have a downtown. We have the Old Town Center. That's our downtown right now. It might not be a lot of businesses, but we have cultural institutions, we have educational program, we've got a lot happening here in the daytime, right?
We sure do.
A lot happening.
Yeah.
So anyways, the Old Town Center.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any feedback from you all on that, but feel free.
I'm okay with it.
I know nothing about marketing. That could be a fantastic idea. I'm an engineer. I studied zero marketing.
I don't disagree. I think most people, well, it's kind of split, right? So for Rock Hill old timers, the west end was farms. It now isn't. So we have Town Center West, which is all the new condos or whatnot, and we have this side, so it's more split. But I think most people refer to the center of Rocky Hill being this area, right? Even in this building, Center School, what was originally Center School with the stage was the original schoolhouse with a congregational church. Like that is what people refer to. So I don't disagree. Now as far as cultural, yeah, you have the fire museum, the historical museum, like all of the new community center. I mean, that makes sense. Small businesses, I mean, there's a few, the CBD store and whatnot. There's not a lot of restaurants necessarily, but I know in part of the planning that we've talked about within walking distance, and if that's connected with what they're doing on Silas Dean, right? That's all part of that plan.
Right.
So, I mean,
And
I don't,
Glastonbury Avenue and
right,
the,
Foundry area, if that ever happens.
what we call, the overlay, just the Glastonbury overlay.
Right.
And what's going on down there. So
Right.
I don't have a
I
problem
mean,
with
the
it.
plans for the Foundry
Which-
and the New Ames area.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Kelson.
Thank you.
Kelson Road.
Would you like consider like identifying it like right at the, what used to be Five Corners and?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
What-
right from the,
At the clock there, or like right in front of the church?
yeah, from the church. from the church. And that's also the Center Historic District too. There's a sign right on Glastonbury Avenue.
Where the bench is, right? The bench in the corner,
Yeah.
Yes,
the point, yeah.
yeah, the point, yeah. Yeah, to the Methodist Church.
Mhm.
That triangle. Yeah. Good, all right. Just wanted to
I
get
like
that
it.
out.
That's good.
Something we're working on.
So for next meeting, before we adjourn here, would you guys consider just keep this agenda the way it is? So we can kind of keep on going with some answers, since we know we're gonna need them?
Keep it as in carry it over to the next agenda?
Like
to-
literally just keep the
Follow.
the template, this is
Yes.
a template.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with
Yeah,
that. Yes.
And with the notion of adding the, approving the minutes from the last meeting added to the agenda,
Yes.
since we don't have to, so we don't have to amend it.
Correct.
And then, do you think anything else needs to be added to the agenda? I mean, we seem to be covering all the little components that we've been talking about here, so I don't foresee anything, but do you guys see anything?
Well, you have any other business on number 8, so
Yeah, there you
there's
go.
always,
We can always
somebody
hit it
can
there.
bring something up there.
yeah.
All right, so motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Good meeting.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.